Oh, it's eight. This is 8/16/2025, and this is my second um, talk I'm gonna put out today. You know, the way it goes for me is, some days I don't feel the urge to say anything at all. Some days, like today, I feel the urge to say something else. And kind of piggybacking on the one I did earlier, but this has been a time of intense thinking for me, and it's a stressful time. It's a stressful time because stuff I'm going through, personally, and stuff is going on, in the bigger world, like the political world and the economic world. And for a while, my anger has been starting to steam, like a steam engine, A steam engine, they used to use them on the trains, the locomotives. In the beginning, they were steam engines, and they had a boiler. And you had to put even, wood or coal inside the boiler to get the water hot to make the steam to push the train. And, sometimes, and I think even the whistle might have even been driven by steam, okay? You just pull the hatch, you just pull the rope down, and it releases the pressure, and then the pressure, it goes through the pipe, through the, the reed, like on a trumpet, they have reeds and stuff like that, to make the whistle, or however the whistle works, is pushed by air, okay? Well, I've been feeling like that steam engine, and the steam has been building because stuff that this president does, for example. And not only him, but things that are happening that are unthinkable. I mean, like the president, committing crimes right out in the open because he can. And putting people in, like the judicial department, that will just do his bidding. And look, I was going to say last time, about Jeffrey Sachs and John F. Kennedy. See, the thing I failed to say was that he said that he wanted to shred the CIA, is get rid of it, because of all the dirty work that the CIA did, abroad. And that's a Central Intelligence Agency that works abroad, as opposed to the Federal Bureau of Investigation that works within. Right? The CIA, they make stuff happen in other countries for our purposes. Like, we've like complained in this country about Russia getting involved in our politics. But we get involved in other countries' politics. And, we form alliances just like the one that we have that's the most hurtful with Israel. And the atrocities that they're doing. I mean, if you see the pictures of the people in Gaza, I mean, Israel has decimated Gaza. It decimated the whole Palestine community. And it's just like in Nazi Germany. It's an extermination. Look, their entire population is decimated now. And they're starving. See pictures of these people just like in the Nazi Germany camps that are nothing but skin and bone. That's why when I was fasting, I realized that I lost my appetite. I don't know, it's hard to see that happen, but okay. And that brings me to my point. Okay? Because I was thinking about putting up a sign in my front yard. about Trump wiping his ass with the Constitution of the United States, because I swore an oath myself when I was in the military to defend the Constitution of the United States, defend freedom at home and abroad. And Donald Trump was a draft dodger, okay, with the cause that he couldn't go to Vietnam with bone spurs on his feet, which is a bunch of bullshit. You know, he paid some doctor off just to, or his dad did, or somebody. I mean, paid a doctor off, or, you know, just got a doctor on the payroll to say whatever. Yeah, well, Donald Trump will send people to war. He feels he's too entitled to have to actually go to war, although he tries to claim that he got a Purple Heart. I seen him on TV, giving a Purple Heart to somebody, you know, who actually deserved it and put their life on the line to get the Purple Heart. And Donald Trump is saying how referring to his Purple Heart. He thinks he suffered so much politically that he, you know, that somebody awarded him a Purple Heart, like as if it was real. That's why sometimes and I'm not the only person. Well, the actual doctors even think that he's in mental decline, that he has your frontal lobe, your frontal cortex, and then something like either below or behind that. I'm not sure, but like there's two areas in the brain, and when people start getting dementia and stuff, those two parts of the brain are affected at first, and then they produce certain characteristics and symptoms in a person's life, you know, like even to the way their stances, you know, their posture when they stand, to being able to walk, and not being able to getting words confused. So, you know, certain like words, like, and you hear Donald Trump just making up words that, because he can't remember what the real word is, he just make one up. You know, but see, it's not just, you know, intentionally making up a word. It's like because, you know, he just gets confused, and it's a confusion, and you know, he's old after all, and he's got a lot of stress in his mind because he's committed a lot of crimes, and he's lied a lot, and it's more stressful to have to maintain lies and remember all your lies. He lies so much that he don't even try to cover up his lies anymore, or make any kind of congruent kind of history of his his life that he purports, you know, like his story, you know, or whatever, you know, continuity, you know, from one point of his life to the other. But he's losing it. And it's becoming pretty obvious. And the thing is, he will commit crimes in order to defend himself like a wild animal would. You know, there is no, look, well, yeah, it's kind of like a thing I can kind of say. It's kind of like when during the Gulf War, I remember my dad telling me, I was talking to him about something, and he said, well, all's fair in love and war. You know, cheating. Okay, and see, cheating is built into our Constitution, okay? The president is allowed to cheat. And that's why the president can pardon anybody he wants to for any crime, and he's immune to any kind of prosecution because he's president. So, and we got the worst criminal in office. Look, James Comey compared him to a mafia boss. Of course, Donald Trump don't like James Comey. But he used to be the head of the FBI. You know, he's not speaking out of his ass. But, look, I got Richard Wolff up here, and I was listening to him, you know. And so this is the second part of my thought here. I'm steaming, like I'm steaming about, Donald Trump and stuff, okay, and what he's doing, and all the business, economic tariffs, and how he's isolating America, and how he's making the rest of the world hate us even more. Okay, well, Richard Wolff, he was talking a little earlier why political figures can't. I don't know what it says. It says CH and then 3 dots. I'm not sure what that one was about. But basically, is why political figures like the president, can't change anything. I think he really can't change anything because it's the system, and it's a system that even put them into office. Okay, it's the monetary economic system that we have, and so, and this system, works in such a way that it makes sure that the people at the top stay at the top, and the majority of the working class, if anybody's going to suffer, they are. Okay, well, that's what he was talking about, before, and he does it very eloquently and with a lot of substantiation. But now this next one is understanding the root cause, and so I just picked out, randomly. I just stopped here because everything he says is good, and I just thought to myself, well, it's do me no good to put a sign up in my front yard about the president, and so we can try to make sure that he doesn't, get a third term. I don't know if it's a loophole. I don't think you can have 3 consecutive terms in a row, but maybe since his terms of presidency were split, by a term, and maybe he thinks he can get another one. I don't know. But anyway, if we can at least, get Democrats back in the House majority or the Senate majority or both, that would put a stop to his tyranny, and stupidity, because he's just a puppet, really, and it wouldn't really serve me probably that well to criticize the president with a sign in my front yard, because there's no telling. I mean, it was just like I said before, nothing is just as it appears, and the nerves and the sinew and the veins, they extend out more than we know. I just don't want to make any more enemies. I'm not sure if I really want to. But what I'm thinking that I can put out is a call for a collective effort, because that's the only thing that's ever going to change anything is collective effort. See? That's why the 3%, 3% of the actual families own like 80% of the wealth in America or something like that, or probably 97. It's a 3%, and then it's the 97%, and then in the 97% you got different gradations of between poor and very poor, and what maybe used to be middle class, but middle class is kind of going away, and I'm thinking that we're headed for a recession again, maybe even depression. My grandma told me in the Great Depression people were jumping out of windows, because they lost everything, like windows from office buildings. So when you hit the ground, you're dead. But I'm just gonna play this a little bit about understanding the root cause, and I just feel as though what I put on here will be providential, because I just kind of just randomly picked out a spot, because like I said, everything he said is good, and so I'm just gonna
quest, but with organized power, because the truth they fear most is that once the majority realizes it doesn't have to play by the current rules The game is over for those who've been winning at everyone else's expense. No leader, no matter how persuasive, passionate, or charismatic, is going to dismantle the very system that put them in power. That is the reality people need to face if they want to stop being disappointed every election cycle. It is not because politicians are all corrupt by nature or because every person who runs for office starts out with bad intentions. It is because the structure they are stepping into has rules, boundaries, and invisible fences built by those who already hold the wealth and power. Those boundaries are enforced not just by laws, but by the pressures of the market, the demands of donors, and the relentless pull of institutions designed to protect the status quo. When you understand that, you begin to see why every promise of sweeping change shrinks down to modest reforms, why bold ideas are walked back in the name of practicality, and why year after year the fundamentals of your daily struggle don't shift. The hook here is this: as long as you keep waiting for a savior from above, you are giving away the very power you need to create real change. When you place your hopes entirely in a single leader, you are setting yourself up to be a spectator in your own life. You are essentially saying, I will sit back and watch, and maybe if I've chosen the right person, they will fix it for me. But the truth is, no one is coming to fix it for you. Not Trump, not Biden, not the next outsider who claims to be different. And the people who benefit from the current arrangement are counting on you to stay in that passive, dependent mindset. It's their safety net. If you believe the right hero will ride in and rescue you, then you won't bother organizing, you won't build collective pressure, and you won't disrupt the system they control. History doesn't back up the idea of change from the top down. Every significant shift, whether in labor rights, civil rights, gender equality, or environmental protections, has been driven by movements, not messiahs. Leaders can play a role, yes, but they are effective only when pushed, pressured, and held accountable by the people. Without that pressure, they get swallowed by the machinery of politics. With it, they can be vehicles for the will of the masses. That distinction matters because it means the responsibility for change has always been and always will be in the hands of ordinary people refusing to accept the unacceptable. The system is designed to absorb individuals, even those with good intentions, and steer them toward compromise. Corporate lobbyists know how to wait out a single presidency. Billionaires know how to adjust their strategies to survive new regulations. The wealthy class has decades of experience in neutralizing individual political threats without dismantling their own advantages. But there is one thing they have never been able to neutralize once it gains momentum of population that refuses to be divided and silenced. That is why they prefer you to stay distracted by personalities rather than focused on the deeper economic forces that control those personalities. The emotional trap is real because believing in a single figure is easy. It gives you a target for your hope and your frustration. If they succeed, you celebrate. If they fail, you blame them. But in both cases, you've kept yourself on the sidelines. The real challenge, the hard and messy work, is to accept that the savior you are waiting for is not a politician, but the collective will of people like you. Once you understand that, your perspective changes.
Well, see, Richard Wolff said it right there. Like if you can just remember what he said in that brief little few minutes. Well, I'll tell you what, man, kind of brings tears to my eyes. But I'm just gonna call this one the savior you're waiting for is us. All right, bye.